A lot of doctoral students think the biggest risk in a literature review is not reading enough, missing an article, overlooking a study, failing to cite the right person. But there is a quieter risk that causes far more trouble. Using the wrong logic for the work your degree is actually asking you to do. Because a literature review can look rigorous and still fail. Not because it's sloppy, but because its methods do not match its purpose. And this is where some language matters. I'm Nick. This is Dr. Cranky Pants Teaches. And if you don't understand the difference between a systematic and a systemic review, it's very easy to build a literature review that will actually work against your own degree. Systematic and systemic reviews are not competing levels of rigor, but they are different ways of organizing knowledge in response to different obligations. And understanding both helps you avoid methodological traps, even if you only ever do one of them. So let's talk about what each approach is for. A systematic review operates under PhD research logic. Its primary accountability is to a field. Systematic reviews are designed to answer questions like, what does the field collectively know about this particular topic? Where are the gaps, the tensions, the unresolved debates? What has not yet been examined in a defensible way? Because those are field-level claims, review has to show how conclusions were reached. And that is why systematic reviews emphasize explicit search strategies, defined databases and keywords, inclusion and exclusion criteria, as well as transparency and traceability. Structure matters here because the review is being used to warrant claims about knowledge. If you are going to say, this has not been studied this way, you need a systematic process that explains how you know that. Now, this is not about performance. This is about building credibility. On the other hand, a systemic review operates under an EDD research logic. Its primary accountability is to a problem of practice situated within a system. Systemic reviews are designed to answer different questions. How does this problem function within this particular context? What factors interact to sustain it? What levers, what constraints, and which histories shape what might be possible? Those are not field mapping questions. They are sense-making questions. Systemic reviews emphasize relationships rather than coverage, context rather than exhaustiveness, iteration rather than closure. Structure here still matters, but the structure is doing different work. It supports understanding how a system behaves, not proving that everything has been read. And here's where the pitfalls show up. PhD students sometimes try to use systemic logic to make field-level claims. And that looks like broad statements about practice without sufficient engagement with field debates. Claims that are thoughtful but underwarranted, and reviews that are rich but cannot support the conclusions being drawn. The problem here is not a lack of intelligence. It's misalignment. And EDD students sometimes try to use systematic methods to solve systemic problems. This looks like overreading without decision clarity, exhaustive coverage that never translates into action, gap hunting that does not improve anything. And again, the problem is not rigor. It is using a tool designed for one obligation to meet another. That is why both EDD and PhD students need to understand both approaches. Knowing this difference protects your work. Here's another anchor idea. You do not choose a review method based on what looks impressive. You choose it based on what the literature review is responsible for doing. Systematic reviews are rigorous because they are aligned to fields. Systemic reviews are rigorous because they are aligned to problems within systems. Neither is better, but using the wrong logic will quietly undermine your work, no matter how careful you are. As you move into actually building your literature review, this distinction will matter more and more, not as a label, but as a way of justifying your decisions about what you searched, what you included, what you excluded, and why that approach fits your degree. If this helped you see why method and purpose have to line up, that matters. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one.